The reason why I picked this story is because I could have picked 50 stories from the evening news over the last year of Asian Pakistani men of Pakistani heritage committing grooming gang, raping children. I could have found loads of those stories because there's loads of them out there, and all that's true, and we should be hammering those people. In fact, we should be deporting the ones who weren't born in this country. So I'm not soft on this at all.
Right, okay.
But I wanted to talk about this story because he's a white man, and he's an old 70-year-old white man.
Has he done this whilst he was 70? Or was
No, some of these are historic, but he's... Is
it the same child?
I can't remember. I don't think so.
Okay, yeah.
But the reason I want to talk about this is because if we're constantly concentrating on one demographic, which is usually men in general, what most people don't know is the stats on women committing sexual abuse to children is rising and has been for several decades now. It's not because we have male perverts identifying as women.
Well, I was going to say that'll be part of it.
Yeah, that's a tiny, tiny part of it. But we're arresting more and more and more women now, biological women, for sex abuse.
I don't think that's right. I don't agree with you on this. You've told me this before.
Yeah, but
I just don't think women have the same sexual drive as men. So I don't think they want to do the things that men do to young children.
We're arresting more and more women doing it. It's in the paper all the time.
That's probably because the police are too lazy to arrest the men. It's easy to arrest a woman, given the KPIs aren't being monitored as we've discovered. So there's no metrics to show that.
Yeah. Well,
But what are these sexual assaults that women can perform on children? Are you saying, sorry, was it sexual assault on children?
On children. Yeah. So we've got many examples now in this country of nurses abusing babies and young children.
But how? Sorry, I don't want to go into too much graphic detail. They can't penetrate them or anything.
No, they could do if they wanted to, but I don't think it's for that young. They're not. It's all the other stuff. It seems every week now there's a female school teacher being sacked and arrested for sex with pupils at schools. It's not the same crime that men.
But that's borderline acceptable, though, isn't it?
It shouldn't be acceptable at all.
No, I'm saying it's borderline acceptable. I'm not saying.
But it's not acceptable.
But a young female school teacher and a mature 16-year-old.
It's not illegal if they're 16. So it's under 16s.
Okay.
So it's not acceptable.
Yeah. The dynamic is very different, though, to a male school teacher having sex with a young schoolgirl, I think.
You may think that, but for me, it's black and white. It's black and white. The answer is no. Just because you're female.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's correct, by the way.
You don't get a pass because you're female.
I don't want to get in trouble here, but I don't say. What I'm saying is, the act of a young man having sex with an older woman.
It's more socially acceptable. So, if a 14-year-old girl is being abused by her 25-year-old maths teacher, it's horrendous.
It is.
If a 14-year-old boy is sleeping with his 25-year-old maths teacher, we go, nice one.
Well, I wouldn't go nice one, but I wouldn't think it's as reprehensible as the other way around. But I don't know why.
But because it's a social norm.
Maybe right.
But again, so the point of this story is, if we keep looking for the same type of offender when it comes to child abuse, and the truth is, there is no ideal demographic of a child abuser. Every group, every sex, every religion, every culture, every country produces child sex offenders.
Yes.
So we need to be looking at everybody all the time, but not in a paranoid sort of way.
Yeah.
So this white man in Trafford, in his 70s, has now been arrested, and I'm raising this not because I don't think Muslim grooming gangs don't exist, because they do, but because I want people to be aware that just because your babysitter isn't a Muslim male, you don't have anything to worry about. Yes, you do. And we all should be putting the protection of children at the top of our list.
Yes.
And always making sure we've got safeguards in place, and we're making sure that no one is abusing any child.
Yes. And I think you're making a really good point here. Safeguarding, which is what I use the terminology, it seems to have gone out the window in the past few years.
Yeah.
The normal conventions and structures we put in place to safeguard all children from all potential adults have gone out the window. Yeah. And recent examples of this, I think, are drag queens turning up at children's primary schools, presenting to, wearing phallic symbols, saying inappropriate things. You go on their Instagram page and they're fetishists and whatever, and they're allowed to go near children now. Things like that happening and part of this is wrapped up in identity politics and everything being acceptable. A lot of the safeguards I think were in place years ago, and I'm sure it applies in Rochdale and with the grooming gangs as well. Those safeguards seem to have gone out the window.
They have, because of this woke nonsense. So we learned from the 80s what was going wrong. So in the 90s we started putting safeguards in place, and it lasted for about 20 years. For the last 10 years we've started giving certain people a veto on safeguarding.
Yes.
We had a council down south last year or two who had a 6-foot rainbow man dressed as a monkey reading storybooks in a library with a 12-inch dildo hanging from his legs. And it's
I remember that.
That's like, you are just pushing this here now.
Yeah.
In America, the drag queen story hour, almost every week now, one of those people who do that are being arrested for paedophilia. Not while they're doing the show, but the hard drive's been looked at. They've been arrested in a car with a child.
Yeah.
So not all these people are paedophiles. I don't want to be saying that all drag artists are paedophiles. They're not, but some of them are.
Yeah, but surely it's more likely that they are more likely to have those proclivities, given the way they want to behave. Somebody who wants
they're more likely to be a pervert.
Yes. If you have, if you enjoy exhibiting sexual non-norms, if you like, you're more likely to have a sexual history, a sexual background, and a sexual proclivity that's different to normal people.
I'd say
Why don't people understand that?
Because, like I said at the beginning of this, your lifestyle is just as important as my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Your lifestyle is just as valuable as my lifestyle. And I think if I think your lifestyle is not as good as mine, that's because I'm a bigot.
Yes. Yeah. So now, if you said that's not appropriate, you're a bigot.
Yeah.
Somebody wandering around a children's library with a 12-inch dildo hanging from, is not appropriate. But if I say that now, I'm a bigot.
Yeah.
I don't like trans people or whatever it might be in that situation.
You don't like queer people. You don't like LGBT people. You don't like and it's like, no.
Yeah.
I just want children to remain as innocent as possible for as long as possible.
Yeah.
6-year-olds don't need to see twerking and be putting $1 bills in someone's knickers and dildos and it's like, and the argument against it will be, but they don't understand any of that. And do you know what? You're correct. And I don't want them to understand any of that. So stop showing them the shit in the first place. Yeah.
But there's an interesting point there, isn't there? And we talked earlier. We're going to talk later about decorum. What is decorum? I can't remember the correct adjective, but what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate. The problem is it's very hard to define, isn't it? So when you say children should be seen twerking, then I say, well why not, Nick? Yeah. What's the problem?
And that's the problem, because we've now become a nation of individuals as opposed to a tribe of people with the shared values, shared community, shared understanding, shared rules. It's now, no, I can live next door to you and have completely different rules to you because I'm different from you.
Yeah. But the thing is, going back to the twerking example, if I say to you, why have you got a problem with, I just happen to run a twerking business, for example. Why have you got a problem with twerking? Because actually, when I have a troupe of twerkers who go out there and they happen to twerk to 5-year-old kids. What's the problem?
My answer would be twerking is a sexual display. It's an African sexual display of showing your backside and your vagina to a potential mate. Why are you doing it to a 6-year-old?
Because it's fun.
It's not fun. It's a sexual invitation.
Correct. And the point you're making there is anything of a sexual nature should not be pushed onto children in any way, shape or form. But that and same
with heterosexual sex.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Anything sexual.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think sometimes on a film you'll see two homosexuals kissing, men or women. And I go, I'll say I don't want to see that in front of the kids. Kids say, what's the problem? Have you got a problem with gays? I said, no, I don't want to see two heterosexual kissing that way, because I don't think it's appropriate, and I think it's gratuitous for the purpose of this thing. So if there's gratuitous sex between males and females or same sex, I don't want to see it.
And 6-year-olds never should see it.
And 6-year-olds should never see it as well. Yeah. But the problem is there's no rule saying that shouldn't be the case, or is there? Or is there? Is there a law saying that you should not be exhibiting sexual mores to children?
There's laws around this, but they're very nebulous. You could, there is no specific laws. There'll be laws around safeguarding inappropriate behaviour, but
this stuff sneaks through.
This stuff, because you can argue this isn't inappropriate. If you can argue it's not inappropriate behaviour, then you can sneak it through. Me and you would say that is inappropriate. But if the panel and the charity board are going, no, we all find this appropriate, then you can sneak it through.
Yeah.
And it's down to the lack of social norms in our country.
It's down to the deterioration of value systems that we used to hold dear. Yeah. And we knew instinctively when something was wrong. Most
people still do.
I think most people still do. In the same way, I think there's an instinct in you. I can't remember what the terminology is. I have read about it. There's a terminology. I can tell you're a man, and I can tell when somebody's a woman as well. I don't need to do a thorough physical examination.
Or to know my pronouns.
Or to know my pronouns. I know a man, and I know a woman, and I know a bloke that's dressed as a woman as well. So there's an instinct in human beings to understand certainly things like that, the sex of other members. In the same way dogs can see each other in that situation. A dog can recognise another dog straight away. But there was also another level, which is this isn't right, which is twerking in front of kids. But somehow it's managed to slip through, and people allowing it to happen, even though they know it's wrong.
That's called like a social contagion, where you can be propagandized, if that's a word, into believing something you would have thought 5 years ago was incorrect. There's videos online of people going to university campuses and saying to students, do you think a 12-year-old should be able to get a tattoo? Oh no, they can't make decisions that time. It might ruin their arm and ruin if they don't know. Do you think a 12-year-old should be able to drink alcohol and smoke? Oh no, not smoking, that's damage for your lungs, and drinking, no. Do you think a 12-year-old should be able to change gender and have a medical operation to... Oh yes, by 12 they know their gender. And it's the same person who's gone, and you can see, that makes no sense.
Yes.
But they've been conditioned through a new set of social norms that all those things are still wrong, but not this new one.
Yeah,
because I've been told all my life that's not wrong. So they can answer all those questions correctly, apart from the last one.
Yeah, and they can't see...
They can't see the hypocrisy. No, they can't see it.
Fascinating. But, so the point about this particular case was just there should be safeguards in place, full stop, for everybody.
Everyone is a potential paedophile. Everyone. So we need to make sure we've got safeguards around everybody, not just Pakistani Muslim men.
Understood.
If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around. Tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement. So be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.